All right, guys. Well, I'm back today with one of the most impressive Beretta 92s that I've ever fired on the channel. This is a brand new offering from Beretta, and it's the 92XI SAO Sabbia. Now, this is going to be a tactical competitive pistol chambered in 9mm with a ton of specs and features packed into the standard 92. It goes above and beyond in a ton of categories, and it really is a great competition yet defensive shooting pistol. Beretta calls this a tactical competition pistol, and I see why, because it really does a lot of stuff, and it does a lot of stuff well. We're going to be talking about the specs and features of this pistol, its performance down at the range, and why I like something like this over maybe some other competitive offerings on the market. But before we do, I want to give a huge shout out to AAC Ammo for sponsoring the ammo to help me make this video. I ran a lot of their 115 grain 9 as well as their 147 grain with the can, and it functioned great down at the range. Now, this is going to be a first shots and overview video of this handgun, and then I will be doing an update video in the future because, as you can see in the intro, it was in its stock configuration. Now, we are going to be putting more rounds through it with a can and an optic, but I wanted to get some shots down range and then really test and evaluate it as it came, add a couple of things, and then test it for future performance. So subscribe to the channel to catch the updated video. One of the first things I want to mention about this handgun is the quality. The fit and finish is absolutely spectacular, and I've come to expect nothing less from the Beretta 92 series of pistols. I've fired a lot of them at different industry events, held them in person, and own a few 92s myself, and I've never had any complaints about the fit and finish, but this one takes it up to a whole new level, especially with some of the add-ons direct from the factory. Let's start at the bottom and work our way to the top and talk about all of those specs and features with this new offering from Beretta. Now, it comes with 3 mags in the box, and I think every gun company should do this, and these are going to be pretty cool because they are enhanced magazines with a 22+1 capacity. 22 in the mag, 1 in the chamber. You are good to go when it comes with 3 of these. It's the standard mag, but it is a Mechgar mag with the base plate extensions, and it just feels really nice. That added weight of the magazine base plate extension helps drop the mags out of the handgun, helps you grab them a little bit easier out of mag pouches, so that's going to be great for both competitive and tactical applications. Now, that mag is going into a flared magwell at the bottom, and the flared magwell does an amazing job really accepting those magazines and then feeding them into the grip itself, making it great for tactical and defensive reloads. And I love the Tony System flared magwell. It just works out really well. Now, that's seamlessly integrated into the grip of the handgun, and on the back and front of the back and front straps, you have some really nice texturing, and then you have some textured G10 grips that color match the gun perfectly. The grips are aggressive enough to where if you have oily, sweaty, wet, or even who knows what on your hands, it still gets a good grip on the pistol, and you feel like you can't let go. It just locks it into place, and that extended beaver tail is super comfortable on your hand. It's got a slight undercut with the trigger guard, and all of your hands stay right in the perfect spot to easily access the controls, but without accidentally bumping them. And I love the texture on the grips, the texture on the front and back strap, and this just works out great. Now, the mag release is an extended mag release with some extra texturing, and it works really well down at the range. I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever, and even if you have smaller hands, you don't really have to break your grip to drop that mag. You can also see the base plate extends slightly past that magwell in case you needed to rip this out with a malfunction, but we had none, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the reliability section of this review. Now, moving up further on the grip, this is a single action only gun, and the safety on here is going to be key for something like this, especially in competitions. Now, it's nice for competitions because since it doesn't have a double action mode, you don't have to fire that first shot in double action and then change the feel of the trigger pull. Right off the bat, we are getting single action only modes, and you're going to carry this cocked and locked. So when the safety is up, the trigger is dead. It's got a skeletonized hammer. You flip that down and engage your target. Now, the safety is very audible and tactile. It's super easy to swipe off, and you can ride your thumb over the top of it, and it is ambidextrous on both sides. It also has the slide lock open or slide release, depending on how you want to call it. And that is nice too, because you can actuate that with your thumb, or you can actually rock up over the pistol after inserting a mag and knock that down. And this works out great. The only thing that I feel like Beretta lacks a little bit, and that's just the design of a 92, is a really good spot to grip it to chamber around. You're very limited on the slide just because of the way it's designed. I find myself grabbing up at the front to chamber around, or right up at this muzzle right here to chamber around. Be cautious when you're putting your hands around the muzzle, but overall it's adequate. Now the Beretta has such a smooth action, and this one is no different. Buttery smooth, and it is just, again, that fit and finish is absolutely spectacular. Moving along to the trigger itself, we'll make sure it's clear one more time and visually inspect it. You've got a very smooth take up. It's a very interesting trigger profile that just works. No matter where you pull the trigger, it feels comfortable. Smooth take up, defined wall, and absolutely crisp break. This is a lot better than even some 1911 triggers that I felt in the past. That trigger is just absolutely awesome. Now, they are calling this the Extreme S trigger, and it's single action only. So let's look at the reset. Insanely short, audible and tactile, followed up by another nice crisp break. The trigger on this is absolutely spectacular. And that's where you start getting into some of the value. Not only does it include the flared magwell, the G10 grips, the oversized controls, but that trigger is really competing with some other top tier triggers that I felt, similar to CZs and other things on platforms that cost at least $5 or $6 more than something like this. And you're just getting an amazing trigger. Pick rail up at the front that you can attach whatever you want. You've got the serrations like they talked about. High-vis fiber front sight, which works out great as you see in the intro. And this one is threaded barrel 1/2x28. And then you have the optics plate system. Now, they sell a wide variety of optics plates. The install is super simple. And once you do that, it's actually really easy to rack the gun off of that optic. And it's a solid steel mounting. And it works out great down at the range. Overall, it's a comfortable, ergonomic, feature-rich handgun, but none of that matters if it's not reliable, so let's talk about that. Reliability and stock configuration from the box was 100% functional with both 115 AAC and 147 grain ammo with no issues whatsoever. The feed from all three of the mags was 100% functional, no issues whatsoever. It just ran. The ejection pattern was consistent, and I had no issues with it throwing shells in random directions. And then I added the optic in a can, and we still had 100% reliability. Now, at this point, this is not going to be a full review of the handgun because I want to get more rounds with an optic and with a can, but I did do some initial shooting, and it was 100% functional, so you shouldn't have any issues. But again, subscribe to the channel for the update video that's coming soon. Now, how did it fire down at the range with a lot of these enhancements? Well, it was easy to swap out mags. It was easy to reload under stressful situations, easy to operate the controls. The trigger made this attack driver, and the recoil impulse was almost non-existent. If you've ever fired a Beretta 92, they just work. They work well, and they are smooth shooters, and this one is no different, almost a little bit better than the standard recoil impulse, and I believe that's just a lot to do with the ergonomics and grip of this handgun and the ability to control and handle the recoil impulse. This is a perfect competition pistol, but I would definitely consider this putting it in a nightstand inside the car and using it as a defensive pistol, especially with the optics plate and threaded barrel on the end. I love it. I think you will too. Again, subscribe to the channel for the update video in the future. This is an amazing handgun, especially for the price point, in my opinion. But I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you been trying some of these new Beretta 92 XIs that have been popping up lately? A ton of different variants. This is one of my favorites by far because it is so versatile. But again, I want to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.